I thought of my father up above, and I thought if he was looking down at me, like, would he want to see me drink my life away? And so I trained harder than ever.
Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Season 6, Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a very special guest, a massive superstar, very proud to say, Greek, Cypriot, and Italian descent, Premiership player in 1995, All-Australian 95 and 2000. Too long to list all of his achievements. He's been on TV for the Australian version of the Gladiators, won Dancing with the Stars. Mr. Anthony Koutoufides, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
I couldn't list all your accolades because you've done so much. So I think everyone knows what a great footy player you were. And I've done a lot of research preparing for this because I'm not a footy connoisseur like my family is. And they said, well, you've actually got a superstar in your midst. You've been called the prototype, started from humble beginnings. You started in Laylaw playing, I believe.
Correct, yeah. Close.
When did you realize, I know you wanted to be a professional athlete. You also were thinking you were going to go to the Olympics at one stage. When did you fall in love with footy?
Fell in love at the age of 8. I had migrant parents, as you said, both born overseas. My father was actually born in Egypt, but of Greek Cypriot background. Mum was born in Italy. They met here. And at the age of 8, I lived in the northern part of Melbourne. It was the outskirts of Melbourne with a lot of migrants in that area. And our local primary school had over 1,000 kids. So it was quite a large primary school, yeah. And at the age of 8, I got introduced to the oval ball. And people often say, Kouta, why not the round ball soccer? I just love footy from ever since I picked it up for the first time. So at the age of 8, I got asked to go down to a local footy club to try out with my older brother, Paul, who was 1 year older. And we didn't tell our mum and dad. And so we just thought we were going for a casual kick, and we didn't realise you had to stay there for quite a while. So by the time we got home, mum and dad were furious and asked where we had been. And we told them we went down to a local football club to try out. And I can still remember both their faces when they said, you're not going to play this game. And we said, we are. And that's how we started at the age of 8. It was actually East Thomastown was the club. It was black and white, hence the reason probably why I broke for Collingwood as a young kid growing up. But I lived in the Carlton zone. And so at the age of 8, not that I played anything special, that was in the winter. I played footy, and then my brother took up athletics in that summer, and I was a little bit of a shy kid. Being more individual sport, I didn't really want to get out there. I watched him compete for half a season before I finally had the courage to get out there and start competing myself. And so those two sports I really excelled in, and ever since I was, at a young age too, even in primary school in grade 4, and my brother was in grade 5, the coaches, the football coaches were like, to ask your brother if he wants to play with the grade 5s and 6s. In grade 4, when I look back, I think, oh my God, that's not a bad achievement. I never thought anything of it then, but I was never coached. So I obviously had quite a bit of athleticism, and so I didn't want to play with them, but they got me to training and picked me in the team. And so in grade 4, I was playing at full forward, kicking goals against grade 5s and 6s, and that's sort of how it started.
1 year when you're so young represents such a big portion of your life. It's such a difference. It's not 1 year when you're 20. It's a big percentage of your life which makes such an impact. Now, to be dubbed, like, I know it's a big thing to be the prototype. You brought the modern game into the way players are now, athleticism. And I spoke to my brother and he said he was probably 15 to 20 years ahead of his time as a player. And I thought, that's incredible.
And my career, Chris, just so you know, started so slow. Like in 91, I was on the list, but I didn't get a game. In 1992, I played 6 games. In 1993, I played 8 games. The Carlton Football Club played off in a grand final, and I was emergency. And then 1994, I played the first half of the year, and I got dropped, and I really thought it was the end of my career. So 20-odd games in 3.5 years. And I had to go and see a sports psychologist. His name was Anthony Stewart, and he taught me these words. I can, I will, you just watch them. And he said, you've got to write those words down in your diary, Kouta, and you've got to highlight them. And every single day and everything you do, you've got to repeat those words. And mate, I got picked 2 weeks later on the wing in a position that I could thrive in football, and I never looked back from that moment. So halfway through 1994, if someone had said, don't stress, Kouta, everything will be okay. You'll win a couple of best and fairest, mate. You'll win a premiership. You'll be all Australian. Adidas will sign you up for 12 years. You'll be in AFL calendars, and you'll be doing, like all these sorts of things. I would have said, no way, it won't happen. And if they had said you will make the AFL Hall of Fame at the end, I would have said impossible.
That was in 2014.
No, when I made it, yeah, correct.
When you won, when you were inducted in the Hall of Fame,
correct.
And you're also voted in the Greek and the Italian team of the century.
Yeah, which is an honour for me. Obviously, when you think of my parents who had no idea about the game and came here on their own and basically worked hard like every migrant did back then in the most incredible country. I mean, they were blessed here. It really was the lucky country. And they just worked hard. And it was family values and, family and friends used to come around. But to represent them two was amazing. I didn't realise how lucky I was to grow up with the two different cultures of the Italian influence and the Greek influence. And my father was actually born in Egypt, so there was a little bit of Arabic influence also in the household. So I was very blessed in that sort of way.
When did you know, like from 94 to 95, something really turned? Was the key factor the psychologist? Was it said, I'm just doing this, I love the game? What was the key factor that turned you into the superstar that you are?
I think your brother was probably correct. Maybe I was a little bit ahead of the time with the game, and I'm not sure if the coach really understood what sort of play he had. It's like, where do I play him? I played in every position on the ground. I could even ruck because of my athletic background. Being, I was at one stage the Australian champion high jumper. Under 15s, under 16s. I was a Australian champion 110 metre hurdler at the age of 16, under 17, had the Australian record. So I did all these things. So I came into this football club and all of a sudden it's like, where'd this guy come from? He can run and he can jump and he's, 6'3" and whatever. But the coach didn't really understand where to play me and didn't understand. And so when he did eventually play me on the wing, where I was able to probably showcase my ability and skill, that's when I was able to really thrive after that. And it was a tough environment, the Carlton Football Club. They had a lot of success previous. I mean, they had 15 premierships when I got there, and there was just premiership players everywhere. And we had incredible leadership in terms of our president was John Elliott. I mean, a lot of people probably don't like him, but I absolutely loved him and admired him for his leadership qualities and building a family environment. And so the first time before a game, Chris, when he tapped me on the back and said, "Your day today, Kouta," I don't think he understood the impact he had on me. I'm like, oh my God, he knows my name. And if he had said, "Kouta, you got to run through that brick wall," I would have done it for him. That's how much I loved him. And so we had great leadership and great culture. And so I was very lucky I walked into that environment, because if I didn't, I don't know what could have happened. So I think how lucky I was. 3.5 years in, I could have easily just gone back to local football. And maybe a lot of people would have said, geez, he was a good local footballer, but wasn't good enough AFL. But as I started to thrive, every recruiter in the competition started looking for athletes. And I had so many kids reach out to me and say, "Kouta, I'm doing athletics because you did." And so it was a little bit of a pathway for them to be able to, the recruiters to look at them. And Sam Mitchell, who's one of the great Hawthorn players, is the current Hawthorn coach, he wrote in his book, he was disappointed in me because he was the non-athlete. And so he was more like on the rookie list first, and you know what I mean? He was a superstar. He became a superstar, but the recruiters didn't want him because he was that non-athlete, and they were looking for athletes like myself. And so he blames a little bit on me. You broke that mold. Yeah.
Like I hear those stories, and I've got I'll share a story. One of my friends who's the greatest Australian snooker player in history of the sport. He's the greatest outside the UK. He fell off the tour twice at 16, and then he won the World Amateur title in 2002. Then he went back over in New Zealand. Then he was lining up at Centrelink to get the dog check, and someone goes, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a professional snooker player." He wasn't made any money at that point. Now he was number one in the world. He was a 2010 world champion. Wow. Obsessed in Collingwood as well. So when he won the world title in 2010, they actually grabbed him around the oval and he was holding his trophy. Yeah. So he lives in Cambridge. A lot of sporting superstars like yourself might not have heard about this kid.
Yeah. Right.
But his accolades, he's won 24 ranking events, 6 major titles. He's one of the best to have ever do it.
Right.
And he's loves his footy, loves his cricket. This guy knows everything about all sports. Right. Just obsessed. But just out of curiosity, have you ever heard about this kid, Neil Robertson?
No, I can't say I have, no.
Most people haven't. Yeah. But if you look at his achievements, they're parallel to any Australian that's gone overseas.
Yeah, well, we're lucky here because here football, like AFL, is a religion, isn't it? And so I think sometimes too, what if I chose the pathway of athletics where I got an invitation to an American college, and I could have taken it up, but Carlton offered me their senior contract. But I know the athletes that I competed with really finished with athletics with nothing and are not remembered right now, whereas I chose football, AFL, and 17 years after retirement, people still remember me. And still, you know, obviously when you've got a surname like Koutoufides, it helps because it's unique and it's long and it's different, and people still call me Kouta. So I think how grateful and lucky I am that I chose the right sport, because if I chose athletics, I wouldn't be here, sitting here right now.
But you've excelled in so much. To give you an idea, and I told you beforehand, like footy was not a sport that I knew in. But I did remember people would say, that's Kouta. And I thought, what is Kouta then? What does that mean? They go, that's awesome. That's excellent.
Yeah.
I even remember that when I came back here in 96, I used to hear the phrase, that's Kouta. I go, what does that even mean?
Yeah,
and that was off the back of yourself.
I know. That's what they used to say. If it's the Kouta, it's the it thing. Yeah,
so that's incredible.
I know. Wouldn't it be good if they did put in a dictionary the name Kouta for that reason?
They'll definitely put in the Australian slang dictionary.
Yeah.
So you did a couple of TV stints as well. You're in the Gladiators, Touched by a God or something. I think
the Greek God.
The Greek God. That's awesome. And Dancing with the Stars. I watched the clip yesterday when you won, and I said, wow, this guy's incredible.
Yeah, I know.
You took that out as well?
I love doing things out of my comfort zone. And so when I get asked, I don't hesitate to a lot of things because I think it's all about life experiences. And some people go, why or whatever. To me, it's just, let's go and let's see how I do. So the Dancing with the Stars was really one out of my comfort zone because I'd never danced before and didn't really understand that there was even a posture to it. The first time I went there, she goes, you have to stand like this. I was like, what? And so we only really had 2 weeks to prepare. The day of the show, I remember the odds and I was least favourite to win. So I was like, oh my God, I could be the first one out here and be embarrassed. But I was in the bottom 5 out of the 10 weeks, but somehow got to the grand final.
Just and then took it down.
And I took it out. And so
I saw the final performance last night on YouTube.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Probably you look at it and probably think, mate, he's not that good. But I think when you see from where I started to where I ended, people could see the improvement and the enjoyment I had out of dancing.
Well, look, I could definitely see the athleticism, and there was judges that know what they're doing. So if they vote someone to win, they're very, very good.
Maybe they like me or more. I'm not sure.
Maybe
anyway,
but maybe that Greek God thing played into it a bit. But
maybe.
So about your footy career, give me. I know any successful person has a lot of highs and a lot of lows. What are some of the, you played close to 300 games in AFL. And I said to my brother when I was walking around the block with him in the morning here, because he works alongside me here, I said, 300 is such a massive milestone. How could such a legend be that short? He goes, Chris, you don't understand, 24 games, I think it was 2-7.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games in footy, but I go, he's so close.
Yeah.
He goes, it was his body, Chris. I don't know. I go, I need to ask this question because not many players have played 300 games, have they?
Yeah, not too many. Yeah, maybe more nowadays. Maybe they can. They're a bit maybe get looked after.
Were you conscious of that record? Was something you were after?
It was so far away, and towards the end of my career, as we struggled as a club, and I just wasn't enjoying my footy as much. Made it a lot more difficult for me, and we had an environment that I didn't enjoy compared to what we had previous to that, and so. I played 50 reserve games as well.
I read that as well.
So it all added up. I played under 19s at Carlton. I played probably 36 or 38 games under 19s. I played 2 years in the under 15 junior development squad. I played a lot of footy, and at the end, I was broken. I was starting to get injuries, and that 22 games was so far away. So, but look, when I look back and I think of my career. If someone had said I was going to achieve this and that before I started, I would have taken that any day. But I know looking back at the peak of my powers, I got injured every year. When I was Brownlow favourite in year 2000, I got injured in round 20. Then 2001 when I was...
That would have been... You did win a lot, but that Brownlow, you were a high favourite.
Yeah.
And you got injured.
Yeah, I put something, I don't know if it was like in the media 10 or 12 best on grounds in a row, but the umpires didn't see that way. Some games I didn't poll 1 vote, or some games to get 3 votes was very difficult. I had to be really, truly outstanding to get it. And so I didn't win that year, but I was favourite. But, 1999, I finished second in the club best and fairest, but I missed 5 games. And then 2000, my best year ever, I finished third in the best and fairest because I missed so many games. So I could have achieved a lot more, but the toughest time in my life, so the greatest day of my life was winning the premiership back in 1995. I was 22 years of age, Wow. I've come from obscurity, Layla Thomastown, northern suburbs. Your mum and dad are coming after the game, giving you a kiss after you won the premiership. I mean, to them, it would have been out of this world experience.
That's the pinnacle of every
everything.
Player, isn't it?
When I see my parents, as we all jumped on the bus, and they were the only 2 parents standing there, the migrants, I drove them to every single game that I played as well, out of respect for them. And but the most difficult time was in 1998 when I lost my father. I mean, 2.5 years before that, I was on top of the world, and then 2.5 years later, I was on the, just didn't know where life was. I wanted my father to be around, and I'd lost him, and so I was still living at home at that time. And he got diagnosed with lung cancer in December 1997, and by March 1998, 3 months later, he was gone. And so that was the most difficult period for me, and I lost my way. I was drinking a lot, going out with mates, and didn't really care about footy, and so. halfway through that year, maybe not even halfway, we played a game against Fremantle, and I played the worst game of my life. And I went out drinking again with my mates, like not caring. But the next day, my two greatest mentors, Barry Mitchell and Wayne Britton, sat me down in their coach's room and said, "Kouta, it's up to you now what you want to do. We understand the difficulty of losing your father, but this game is brutal. And if you don't get yourself fit, you might be out of the football club by the end of the year." And so I know when I went home, I thought of my father up above, and I thought, if he was looking down at me, like, would he want to see me drink my life away or play my best football as I possibly could? And then I promised to him that I would train harder than I ever did before. And by doing that, I didn't want him to look down and think I was a liar. And so I trained harder than ever. And 3 of my greatest years after that, 99.
You made the
2000,
commitment to
2001.
yourself.
But I was like, he's watching down on me, so I can't let him down. And so any day I didn't feel like training, I just thought of him, and I pushed myself to the extreme. And the game became a lot easier for me when I trained at my absolute peak.
That's a beautiful story. I love that. And I remember watching Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, speak. And he said at the start of each season, because I love high performance, I love athletes, and I studied him. I studied Tim Grosvenor, who mentored him, and also Michael Jordan. He goes, at the start of the year, he goes, I'd come up with a plan and I'd make it a contract and agreement with myself, and I'd never break it.
There you go.
He says, how many times I'm going to practice, what I'm going to do, and nothing is breaking it. And when you see how the guy played, the Mamba mentality, he was a beast.
He really was. Like, he's another level. I'm not even close to that sort of level of him or MJ. But to me, Michael Jordan's the greatest player ever in the NBA. But I see Kobe as second greatest. I see how competitive he was, mad. And he would take on anyone. So I really do truly admire Kobe. I was so fortunate. My oldest boy, Jamie, who loved him. Remember when he came to Melbourne? And we got to have a photo with Kobe.
He was one of my favourites. And even him and Michael would always look after him. And, he'd say, who can beat you one-on-one? He goes, no one. The only one that can beat me stole all my moves, Michael used to say.
Yes.
And I thought, but he loved him. They had that bond, that relationship. Correct. But I think and I'm going to ask you as well, any elite athlete or any elite anything has to have great mentors, people that are going to coach them and guide them.
Yeah. So
there would have been a few that are instrumental in your career.
My parents were the two, like really the ones. My older brother Paul was another one too. But Barry Mitchell and Wayne Britton were my two greatest mentors. And I love David Parkin now. And we didn't see eye to eye early on. And, when he first started to coach me, I don't think I'm not sure whether he didn't like me or didn't understand me. But when Barry Mitchell came as a teammate, I forged a great friendship with him. And then as he retired, he used to ring me after games and tell me what to do. And then eventually he got a role back at the club. And between him and Wayne Britton, they were like, Parko, this guy can do this, and that, and this is how we have to play him. And so then all of a sudden the game plan started to revolve a little bit more around myself, and they used to tell me exactly what I needed to do. I was so coachable that if you just told me what you needed me to do, I could go out there and actually do it. And so that's what they did. And I just listened to them, and I got myself fitter and stronger. And when that belief started to come, I started to dominate the games of football. If they didn't come along, I don't know where that would have left me, because I started so slow my career. I really had to catch up with my talent to be able to, achieve what I ended up achieving.
It's a great story. It's like Brady as well. He started very, very slow to become the best of all time.
Correct, yes.
And it was always one key pivotal moment. So obviously you've mentioned some of your highlights, and you've mentioned some of your setbacks. If I said to you, you're going to remember 3 key moments from your great footy career, what would they be?
Number one, the premiership.
Yep,
the greatest day of my life. 22 years of age. I still remember it now. And, we celebrated after that. It was just so surreal.
Almost 30 years on.
Yeah, 20. And who would have thought Carlton, I was their 16th premiership. And who would have thought we'd still be waiting 29 years for the next one? And that's what we've done. In 1999, Chris, just so you know, because I think one of your family members is an Essendon supporter, but we came up against the unbeatables Essendon Football Club in a preliminary final. And a lot of the Essendon supporters were lining up for grand final tickets because they thought, and so they should have, that they were going to easily, it would be like a training run against us and get over the line and beat us. And we played them twice throughout that year, and they were a far superior team. Once they beat us by over 40 points, and the next time by 78 points. And our coach, David Parkin, said that we were a B-grade team. We came up against Essendon in the prelim final. And I remember John Elliott going, Kurt, I got a funny feeling about today. And I just thought of the Carlton history and the times when they shouldn't have won, and they did. And, mate, at halftime we had this convincing lead, and in the third quarter, Essendon kicked 7 goals, 7, and played the way they were capable of playing. They were ahead of us. 3/4 time, I was praying that they'd put me in the midfield, and it wasn't until 2 or 3 minutes in the last quarter I seen the runner come towards me and said, "Kouta, you're in the middle." And so I went a bit crazy, and Fraser Brown put on one of the greatest tackles. We got over the line by 1 point. And so that was another incredible memory. And if we still stick on, obviously you have the wife and the kids that are let's not talk about them because they sit up above. But if we talk about a third one, I think to captain Carlton Football Club was an absolute honour for me when I think I walked in at 14, left when I was 34, but had 3 years to be able to captain the club, but also captain the last game at Princes Park, which I think was the most iconic ground for any Carlton supporter who ever went to watch. Back in the day, they'd always say it was a special place, 25,000 mad Carlton supporters. It was like playing in front of 100,000 people at the MCG. That's how crazy it was. And so it was an honour for me to be able to pick up the ball for the last time as the siren went and handed it over to Carlton's arguably greatest player of all time, John Nichols. And so they're probably my 3 most incredible memories of the football club.
I actually read comments saying that you probably played one of the greatest quarters in football history when you guys won by 1 point with that. You did a great mark towards the end and you just went across the line. That would be pretty incredible to hear that you played the greatest quarter in football history when there's been that many.
It just keeps your name out there, doesn't it? People often talk about it in the prelim final as well. I mean, it was such a big occasion against our arch enemy, Essendon,
who beat you twice convincingly.
Yeah.
But did you have a feeling that day you're going to win?
No, I didn't know. But you go into, because we played the week before against West Coast and we actually tweaked our game plan a little and we played really well. You always go into a game feeling like you could win, but these guys were the ultimate team of that year, would have gone on to win the premiership, in my opinion. Not putting North Melbourne down in any way, but Essendon were a better team. But, to be able to get out there and play the way that we played out of our skins that day, and we had to do that to be able to win, and that's what we did. So, yes, very thankful it was on a big occasion because, I prided myself on finals games ever since I was a junior kid, whether it was Victorian championships or Australian championships at athletics or whether it was football things on finals. I always performed. I don't know what it was. I just loved the big occasions more so than just any normal thing.
Was there a preparation you used to do before any match to get yourself in that right frame of mind?
Yeah, I never went out the night before. I know that. So I'd always be at home and I'd listen to music in the room for half an hour and just visualise myself and what I had to do the next day. And so it was a big mental thing that I did. So that was the only sort of preparation I did. I never really went out the night before and just tried to relax and get the mind right. I always felt like I had to be right there. I couldn't just, not think about the game and just turn up on game day. Some players can do that, but everyone's different.
Very few though. When they asked Ali, how did you win your world championships? He said, by not going out at nights and being in bed alone by 9 o'clock. He goes, what was your success? He goes, that's the hardest part. He goes, the discipline to do that was Ali's response.
Yeah. And the discipline's hard when your mates are going out on a Friday night, and I enjoyed going out back then, night clubbing with the boys, hanging out. That was a discipline that if you wanted to make it, even, at high school, peer group pressure to do certain things, but I never swayed from where I wanted to go because I always wanted to either represent Australia at the Olympics or play footy. And so I knew if I went over that way, that was going to hinder that. And so, and so I stuck with it as hard as it was. I was maybe more like a nerdy kind of kid because I had goals that I wanted to achieve.
Now, I want to ask you, so a lot of great sports people that last 10, 20 years in a sport, where do you go from that point? You go from being in the spotlight to being this superstar. Not that you're not after sport, but that's kind of your identity, I would imagine, as a elite sportsman, like a great footy player. Where do you go after that? What do you do? What's your thought process?
Yeah, I was a lost soul for at least 3 years after I retired because I always thought maybe I'd somehow get back into the footy realm of things, but every door was closed for me. And so all of a sudden I'm out there. You go from the highs of footy being regimented, people tapping your back and congratulating you, having sponsors and all these things. All of a sudden, okay, I'm out in the real world now. What do I do? And so I did go through a little bit of a lull period there, and Mark Robinson did an interview. He described me as being depressed, and I don't see it in that sort of way because I'm more like I went through a low period in life, but I continued to write down my goals and I continued to read books and just tried to develop myself in that sort of way to try to stay positive as much as I could and try to find my way in life. And so that's what I did. I was working for a car finance company and I wasn't overly happy, although the boss was a great man. It just wasn't like me.
Wasn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't me. And so I found health and nutrition, started Kouta Fit Clubs, and that was my joy that got me out of those low periods of life and started to find some goals again and have a vision, which I think for me is important because that's all I've known ever since I was a young kid.
And look, I have to make a mention as well. You took a good run at being mayor of Melbourne as well, which you did very well. You polled very well and you were at certain points head to head as well. And I saw you promoting in Sydney. I saw you promoting here. Everyone knew who you were. You had some incentives, to get people to go back into the city and some good ideas. So you did a little stint in politics as well.
It was an unbelievable experience. It was really another time here where I had no idea, but just ran out there and thought, for the love of Melbourne and seeing that the city the way it is now, I wanted to go and fight for it. And I want to stand up as a normal non-politician, but more like your common sense sort of person. What do you feel like you talk to people? What's lacking in the city and what do we need? There's so many cafes and restaurants and retail people that are struggling. It breaks my heart when I think it's a city. And back in the day, that was like, wow, you've got a cafe or restaurant or some shop in the city. It was like, oh my God. But right now, it's not the case. And so there's a lot less people in there. It's not very safe. And there's a lot of homeless there, and there's a lot of issues that I thought, what, if I can go and fight for them, I will. And the response from the people were absolutely amazing, to be honest.
You're loved by Melbourne and Victoria, and it is a shame to see because we are so known for our culinary experience. We've won most livable city back to back to back to back all the time, and I do a lot of work with Vinnie's. I'm an ambassador for St Vincent de Paul's, and Victoria is the fastest growing state when it comes to homelessness. It's on the rise. It's such a big issue, and people are hurting out there.
I want to go fight again if I have to. And you're right there. It makes me really sad to see the city the way it is, because when I think of Victoria, why do people come here? It's not the weather, because we have 4 seasons in one day, and our beaches aren't the best, because if you want better beaches, there's plenty around. But I see the city as the icon. That's the reason why, because culture, the cafes, world-class restaurants, we're the fashion capital of Australia. Everything is here in the city, and we've got the sporting complex, and all that. But right now, people aren't interested in coming because they don't feel like they're safe, and the city hasn't got as many people, and it's not as vibrant, and there's all these rallies going on, like disruption of the city. It makes it very hard. The car parking is an issue. There's bike lanes, they need to be looked at as well. Are they working? Are they not? I love sport, and staying fit is what I do, but we've got to think about what's easier and the reasons why people want to come into the city.
The bigger picture.
Yeah.
So I went to Sydney. I had to go there on work a few weeks ago, and when I went out one night. We were at an awards night, and then we went out for a drink. I don't really go out barely at all, a lot of drink, but it was pumping. Oh my God, went to 2 places. It was so busy. And I said, it's not like this in Melbourne.
No.
Yes, people go to restaurants, but it was so busy. There was so much people. The energy was just different. And I said, this is what Melbourne used to be like.
Yeah.
But because I haven't gone out for so many years, I forgot what it's like.
Yeah.
But also, no, I think obviously after COVID, it's taken a big hit on our city, and a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners have taken a big hit. So hopefully someone like yourself goes in and does a great job and can get us busy again or get us where we need to be.
Yeah, we may be the only city maybe who hasn't recovered after COVID for whatever reason. But you go to Sydney, you're right. They got a lot of their workers back, public servants back into the city, which helps. And Queensland's got this 50-cent transport, fee that you can go from the Gold Coast to Brisbane. And so people are travelling around for 50 cents. So other cities are doing things and giving people incentives to go into the city. Whereas
spend money.
Yeah, and all that, but we're struggling. I mean, I talked to, a cafe owner that in this precinct there used to be 16 cafes. There's 5 left, and they're all on the brink of being 0 in that South Bank area. I mean, South Bank, you walk out of there, you see the most incredible city views.
16 wow.
So there's a lot of issues in there, and that's why I wanted to fight for the people in the city of Melbourne. And you know what? I got the support, and I'm really appreciate everyone. I mean, I was doing videos and people were inviting me and people were screaming, go Kouta, vote Kouta. It was an unbelievable experience, but it's not just about the ego for me. It's about helping the city of Melbourne. And so there's another way.
The ones in Sydney, I got to be honest, and you were making a video and someone was yelling in the background. I thought, that's pretty cool. You're in Sydney promoting Melbourne and someone's yelling in the back.
Yeah, I think they said, there's the Lord Mayor or the Mayor of Melbourne, Kouta, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this is very funny. And so we had a bit of a laugh about that as well. So even when I travelled around, And I actually went to Gold Coast with the family, and I went into a bar, and there was all these like local footballers, I think, from the Geelong area, and there's Kouta, there's Kouta. So they all yelled out, vote Kouta and all that stuff. And that's
Good
the
community.
experience I had, yeah.
One of my friends who was not, he goes, tell Kouta I voted for him. I'm not even a Carlton supporter, but tell him I voted for him. And I said, okay.
Yeah, that's
I'll
nice
let
of
him
you.
know.
And, there's so many people that did that, and I'm very appreciative because, they put a little bit of faith. It's not because, they see me as a politician or whatever, but in time of need right now, we just need a little bit of common sense back here, which was the greatest city in the world. It was the envy of everyone else. And to me, I want to go around and make it that again. I want to go and brag about our city, but right now I don't see it in that sort of way.
Look, as I said to you, it was a real eye-opener when I was in Sydney, but obviously you're a crown jewel in Melbourne and Victoria, and you get a lot of support from a lot of people, which is why you polled so well in your stint in politics. Thank you very much for being on the podcast, Kouta. It was a pleasure meeting you. I know why so many people talk highly of you just by meeting you. This is the second time I've met you, but I know why people talk so highly of you and what a superstar you were. It's a custom in our podcast to go through some quick fire questions. Are you ready, Anthony?
God, I'm not ready, but anyway, go for it.
What's the most interesting thing you read lately?
Oh my God, what's the last book? I usually do read personal development things. I think Robin Sharma is probably the one. He's the man that I really love reading about, his books.
Now, what's one experience that shaped you to the man you are today?
I think the death of my father was the one that really made me grow into from a boy into a man. After the experience that I had to grow, and it was a very difficult time for me.
Well, you responded great. Well done. How do you push yourself outside your comfort zone?
I enjoy it because I see that's where the growth is, and if I don't push myself, I'll never grow. And in order to keep up with the world and the demands of the world and the growth of everyone, I need to continually do that. And I think the day that I don't do it, then is the day that I'm not growing. That means, mate, if you're not growing, then what are you doing? Yeah, well, that's it. That's it.
What's your most important leadership quality?
I think I lead by action, and I think even with my kids, I try to just always stay fit and healthy and show them the work rate that you need if you want to succeed. There's no time to rest. It's I try to get up early and stretch and meditate and do all those sort of things to get myself right, and then off I go during the day.
I think you mentioned the key thing, and I can say that my parents were the same. When you're instilled with that hard work ethic from a migrant, you see what it takes, and you appreciate what they've done to give you an opportunity. Like my parents came over, I'm one of four. And the fact they could raise us, feed us, and do everything, we had everything we've ever wanted, is a testament in itself. Shows you what you need to do.
Yeah.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory. I always look back because I love the 80s. And to me, that was, I'm a bit time warped. I listen to 80s music, and my family just give it to me for that reason. But it brings back joy and happiness. I think even just, I think playing for the local football club, there was a lot of migrants and, Aussies in that environment, but it was just a wonderful environment. So I always think back to Lola Football Club and the time, and it was only maybe 3 or 4 years before I went to Carlton, but I think that was a great period of my life.
Sports really unites people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
How do you handle difficult conversations?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I try not to inflame it, and just try to make it more peaceful.
You seem like a very calm person.
I am. I can go off sometimes. I'm sure my kids will tell you that too. Sometimes I try to, but majority of the time I am a calm person. So it's not an easy thing to answer because everyone's, different. But
yeah, I'm very calm with 3 of my kids. My youngest one pushes my buttons. I couldn't believe. She goes, "Dad, you only ever yell at me." I'm sorry, Mila. You push me so much.
Yeah.
What's your go-to method to relax?
This year I haven't been great, but reading was one thing, and also meditation. And so I enjoy that. But this year is one year that I haven't probably focused on them 2 things, and it might be a thing of 2025 as we approach the end of 2024. Some of my goals to get back into play, I think that's going to be important for me in 2025.
2 of my favorite things is meditating and reading.
Yeah.
If you could simplify one aspect of your life, what would it be?
Oh, I love collecting runners, and so that's a little bit of an issue.
Obsession?
It is. And I've reduced the collection quite a bit, and I'll continue to do that. And I think I just need to have a little bit more space. I think I've just got a cluster of too many things, the Kouta memorabilia and the sneakers and all that. I just need to just clear everything.
Now, I know you help a lot with juniors, and I mentioned that story of you handing out tickets. What's your most rewarding thing about mentoring others and helping others? Because obviously in your role and as a captain, this is very pivotal in your role, isn't it?
I was blessed to have a great sporting career, and I learned so much through life experiences. I don't just read the books and say, this is what you need to do. I actually went through it, through ups and downs and all that. And so I coached my youngest boy's team the last 2 years, and we won, 2 premierships. And this year I won't be coaching them because you're only allowed to coach for 2 years, and then you've got to pass on the baton. But I see kids are really desperate to make AFL footy, and so I love the fact that I can teach them everything that I learned, and I try to teach them, sometimes I push them out of their comfort zone in the things that I tell them, because I just think sometimes if we're just too nice, then they just go about and complacent. But if you really want to make it, I say you have to be different to the other kids, and so you have to push yourself a little bit more. So I've really enjoyed the fact that I've been able to coach the younger boys the last couple of years, and so because I know how, I was the one with the dream as well, and so you want to be able to provide with them and try to help them as much as you
Tough
can.
with people is okay, it doesn't break you, it's going to make you. What's one goal you're currently working towards?
I think if I look as my body, I had a shoulder replacement last December, so almost a year today now that I did it. And so during the campaign, I didn't hit the gym not one time in the 3 months that I was campaigning. So I'm a bit of a health freak, and so right now, as the shoulders are feeling so much better than what it was before, I'm hitting the gym. And so I wanted 51, I'll be 52 next month, try to get myself into better shape, to show that people, no matter how old you are, you can still stay in shape if you really want to. And so it's all about nutrition, training, the exercise part and the mindset part of it as well.
You are in amazing shape for any age. How do you stay organised amidst the busy schedule? So I remember when you came last second to promote what you're doing, the Lord Mayor, and you were coming back and forth, Matt's calling you, you show up everywhere. How do you stay on point when you've got so many commitments and busy?
I just go about it, and that's how I do it. I just set I have my diary there, and I try to get up early in the morning and get to bed as soon as I can, and sometimes 5 or 6 hours sleep. And I think the most important thing is that if your nutrition is right, you can continue to go, because people say, mate, you travel, and I'm doing footy talks, and I travel interstate. I go away for a week and do stuff and travel around, hours of driving and stuff, and how you keep going. And I tell them the same thing, in order to stay focused, the nutrition is the key to it, as well as both the mental side and the physical side of it. So that's why I meditate. And this year I haven't been great at it, but that's why I meditate, and that's why I stretch in the morning for those things, to just get my body ready, body and mind ready.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on our podcast?
11.
There you go. The great Anthony Koutoufides, thank you very much for sharing your time. And if you want more content, like and subscribe. Thank you.